Hello and welcome back to Parenting SOS. Today we are joined by Gemma Bird, aka the Money Saving Mum. Now Gemma is an influencer, a social media star, and has built a massive following with her practical tips on saving money and managing finances. As a mum of two, she understands the challenges that parents face in providing for their families while staying within budget. Gemma's simple yet effective money saving strategies have helped save her £1,000 a year without even noticing. It's clearly a massive subject and has been a massive subject for the last few years. It's not going anywhere. Gemma, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I think I might take you with me for every introduction. That was really lovely.
When did you start talking about this and realising it was something that you were passionate about and other people resonated with?
From social media, I've always been into this from sort of like age 7. I remember picking up coins on the way to school and always saving. And I think it was something mum instilled into me. Like, my mum never had a lot of money. It was always a situation of, you're not having that, you're not having this, you're not having that. And I remember thinking, I'm going to make sure when I'm older, I'm not going to like be struggling as much as mum. So it was always a case of, if you want something, you've got to save for it. And that doesn't matter if that's something really extravagant that you want, because we can all treat ourselves. I'm not about not treating yourself and not having nice things. That's not what I'm about at all. But it's about buying what's within your reach and not overstretching. So not trying to keep up with the next person, because there's always someone better off than you and there's always someone worse off than you. You know, if everybody sat down in a room and there was 20 girls on a WhatsApp, we're all going to have very different financial situations to the next person. But I've always been that person that if someone's invited me out and said, let's go out for the day, you know, I'm talking sort of when I was in my 20s, and it was maybe £100. If I didn't have it, I was so open and honest and be like, oh, I can't afford it. And they'd be like, oh, you've got savings. And I'd be like, yes, but I'm saving for that. And I used to call it dead money. I'd be like, yeah, I might have, I don't know, £10,000 saved towards that car I wanted, but I'm not going to touch that. I was really strict with my money. I'm like, I've got £200 for the month, for example, and I've got £50 a week. I can't afford to do that. And I've never tried to keep up with people, and I don't now. And obviously, as I've got older and financially, I've got better off, and that's just because really from sort of my teens and my 20s up to sort of mid 30s, I really have had sort of not much at all. I've saved and saved and saved and saved and saved until I'd sort of become mortgage free, and it's something I've been really passionate about. And with regards to sort of getting it started on social media, I remember I went out with an influencer for a cup of coffee, and I was collecting random receipts in Costa, and they were like, I don't think you're allowed to do this, by the way, FYI, but we can say it. And she was like, why are you doing that? And I said, well, I earn 15 grand a year. I'm really good with my money, and if anyone hasn't put the points on their Costa card, I'll go and add them on the next day and say, oh, sorry, I forgot to add my points. Then I get 3 cups of coffee. So she said, oh, I'm an influencer, I earn money online. And me being me, I've always turned my hand to things. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go online and see if I can make a career out of this, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to shout about a deal. I'm going to say it's okay to be in debt. I'm going to say you don't have to have Louboutin shoes to be doing well in life. Like, yeah, and if you do want a designer handbag, like I've got a couple, go to the designer outlets and get them for half price. And let's talk about saving money, or saving money on holidays, or paying your mortgage off early, because it's something I'm really passionate about. And I kind of was a bit, not in a way, this sounds horrible, because I love seeing people do well, but sometimes I used to feel a bit down, like when I'd go online and think everybody's got everything and I can't really afford to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to make a change and show other things, like just going to the park with your kids, or I've saved money on this, because I'm a great believer in all the little things add up to the big things. Like, we've just had an amazing holiday because somebody said, oh, your money, mum, you've had an amazing holiday. And I'm like, yeah, but that's why I do it, because I'm good with my finances. I save up for the things I want. Like, day to day, I will take my sandwiches out with me. I'm not bothered about designer clothes. It's about what you're bothered about. If you love designer clothes, that's absolutely fine, and that's lovely, but it's all about not getting in debt for them, and I'm really passionate about that. If you can afford it, that's fine.
Like you say as well, a large part of it is the way that you are brought up, and also what you're surrounded by. Like, there is such a living for the weekend mentality for so many people, where they'll work all week and then they'll just waste it all on, like, what I say, waste it all because that money's gone, but what have you got to show for it? Maybe it's the memories of being a little bit drunk and tipsy with your mates, but you know, I guess it's for each person, it's about prioritizing what is important for them.
Exactly that, and there's no right or wrong when it comes to money either. I really think that, you know, you might have a massive passion for shoes, for example, and a couple of times a year you buy yourself shoes. I like a car, for example. It's always been my thing. I've always saved up and had a nice car, and I've always had like a dream car in my head that I've wanted to get to, and at 40 I finally got it. But again, it's about waiting until you can afford it. Like, if I'd have got that in my 20s, I wouldn't have been able to save to pay my mortgage off. So it's about life choices. It doesn't mean I'm amazing or I'm right. There's nothing to do with that. It's about what you want in life. Like, I always wanted him, once I'd had my children in my 40s, I wanted to be more financially secure. And I think that's a lot of it as well, is my first husband left me and it broke my world. Like, I lost everything overnight. Like, I had no career, I had no money, I had no kids. It was... the recession was on. I had 2 properties that I'd bought with my dad. And my dad's not wealthy, FYI, at all. And everything just come crashing down around me. Like, I lost everything overnight. So I think even though now I'm in a better financial situation, I always think it's about planning, because things can go wrong for anybody at any time. Yeah. And I think maybe where I'm anxious, I'm good at saving money because it's something I can control. Like, I've met you in person, haven't I? And I'm always like, oh, but say this all ends tomorrow. And you're like, Gemma, stop stressing. And I'm like, oh my God, your career is amazing. And I love speaking to other men and women that have been successful, and I'm just a worrier. So maybe that's why I'm really good at saving money, because I worry about absolutely everything.
I asked the Have Mum Had Baby community some questions, and this is definitely something that's on their mind, because 67% said that their main worry is that their dual income is not stretching far enough, and a further 90% said that they're trying and failing to support the family on a single wage so that someone can be at home with the kids. So it's not surprising, especially with the cost of living crisis. We don't know. It's so scary, isn't it? You literally don't know what the next step is. So you can kind of go, okay, we're surviving this bit, and then it's going to shift again, and you don't know where you're sitting within that. But on Parenting SOS, I ask you your 3 most asked questions, and you've sent them in. And the first one is, I'm in debt, what do I do? I imagine this is something you get a lot.
Yeah, probably daily.
Really?
Daily, yeah, I would say. Some are really hard to read on my DMs. Sometimes I have to switch off before bed because I'll sit there voice noting or trying to chat to them because I think it's important. With regards to debt, I always say the first thing you need to do is write it all down, your ingoings and your outgoings. That is the first thing you need to do, and look at those outgoings. And if you are in debt, what can you cut? And this sounds so harsh, and I've had to say it to some people recently, but it's the only thing, you can look at doing. Like, have you got a car? Okay, well, what's your car loan costing you? Is it $500 a month? Well, okay, that needs to drop to $200 a month then. And it is heartbreaking because you want that car. Okay, your Sky, everything, TV, it's got to all go. Your gym membership, it's got to all go. And it's absolutely horrific because that's people's enjoyment, that's people's mental health. I don't want to say that to people at all. I don't agree with it. I don't think you should have to not have it. I'm just saying that if you've got to get out of it, it could be that you need to do it for a year or 2 years to change your life around, then not have those sick feelings anymore about being in debt. And even as extreme as one lady, her mortgage was so high and it was going to be losing the house, but I said, look, what about looking at downsizing? And that was going to work for her. So she was still had a roof over her head. So look at all things like that first. If there is nothing you can do for yourself and you've looked and you've cut everything out, you've stopped the takeaways, you're batch cooking, you're cutting down on the meat and you're using more lentils and pulses, you're doing everything you can for free, you're doing everything in your power, and you truly have been really, and I mean ruthless with it if you're in debt, ruthless, and you can't get a second job because you've got the children and childcare is astronomical, so it's so hard to do both. You've been through entitled to the government website to see what you're entitled to. Are you entitled to any benefits? Because a lot of people don't know about it. It's like the tax-free childcare allowance. You can earn up to £100,000 a year and still get that. So a lot of people don't know about these things. So make sure you check that out. If at that point it's still overwhelming, go to somewhere like the Citizens Advice Bureau and this Step Change, which is the debt organisation, and they will help you. They will put you in touch. They will walk you through it all, and there will be a way out. There is always a way out. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So they're the steps I would say to go. So depending on how severe your debt may be, if it's £500 it's keeping you up at night, or it's £200,000, it's about talking and calling those individual companies as well. For example, if it's the mortgage and you're in arrears, is making sure you contact the bank and the mortgage company and speaking to them, because they're really, really good actually. If you call and speak to them, they'll put you on arrangements. People say that affects my credit rating. It does, but if you're already in arrears anyway, your credit rating's already been affected. And I always think, no, none of us want our credit rating affected, but again, it's stages, isn't it? And it's steps. And the important thing is that you don't then get charges on top of that charge, because then it just starts running away with itself. And it's the same with credit card. If you've done everything you can, look at moving, to 0% interest. Can you do that on your credit card? Is your bank offering an overdraft where it's 0%? Try and get the interest down on everything first and pay the highest interest off first. If you've got £2,000 in savings and you've got £2,000 worth of debt, 99% of the time the interest on that debt is probably going to be higher than what you're getting in savings. I know rates have risen. Clear it. Even though you've got no emergency fund left, clear it, because you're still getting interest on that, because you don't know if that boiler's going to break. I always say, yes, you do need that emergency fund, 100%, you definitely do, because something will always go wrong every year. Your Hoover's going to break, your fridge is going to go. You do need an emergency fund, because it's fact. In our lives, there'll be something go wrong. We have a car crash, water leak, it's just fact. But clear your debt first. Once you've done that and you've cleared that, even if you're only left with, after you've had your going out bits, £10, £5, £3, start putting that in a little pot and it will mount up. So that at least if like your fridge goes, for example, and it's £400, if you've got £200 saved, the pressure is hugely halved, because you know yourself, I get a set wage a month. Even though I might earn something, I've got a company, so I still only pull a set amount. So if I get a bill coming for £2,000, that hits me. That's coming out of my main wages, right? Yeah. But obviously I've got my savings, so I take that out of my savings. And I've always thought of, again, that's probably anxiety, but it is true, something will go wrong. My friend was like, what do you need a rainy day for? And I'm like, something's going to go wrong this year. Fact. Like, you ain't going through a year without having something go wrong, even if it's your shoes, your heel and your shoe breaks and you need new shoes. Like, it's just fact. It's awful, but you've got to have that emergency fund. So that's the best way I would say to anyone to do it. There's no magic wand, there's no quick fix, but there are processes to go through. And there is lots and lots and lots of help. And don't feel alone.
What do you think stops people from asking for that help? Is it the age-old thing, like everything in life? Is it the feeling of embarrassment? Is it not knowing where to turn and just feeling overwhelmed by it all? Or is it people just burying their head in the sand and kind of going, can't face it, can't face it, can't face it?
I think it's a mixture of all that. And I also think it's a mixture of, if I don't deal with it, it'll go away type thing as well. Yeah. Like the letter comes through the door and you're just like, oh, forget that. I'll deal with that later. I'll do it tomorrow. And just carrying on with your life. But then a lot of the time that debt's then creeping up more and more and more and more and more. And the amount of people that have said to me, do you know what? Like, I put step change on the other week and the National Debt Helpline. And one of these ladies messaged me. She said, oh my God, you shared that the other week. It was about a week later. She said, I've phoned them. I honestly feel like the weight has been lifted. I'm still in debt, but I feel amazing. I don't even feel depressed anymore because now I've got a plan in place.
It's having a plan, I guess, as well. It's knowing that you're not on your own. It's being proactive about something that is crap. It's horrible to be in that position.
It's horrific.
But shying away from it's not going to help it at all. And I imagine phoning people like that, it's the weight of knowing that you've spoken to someone else. It's not someone that's going to have, a negative opinion of you in any way or cast any judgment, because they just know that's something that happens to people and from so many different walks of life. Your second most asked question: how did you pay your mortgage off and how did you do it?
Okay, so it was a mixture of saving and investment. And what the first thing I did was save up for my first property with my first husband. We separated and we both got 50-50 from the house, the money that we'd built up in the house. So that was a large amount that was paid off for it. I worked as an estate agent and I didn't earn a lot of money. I think the maximum I earned was about $25,000 a year. So it wasn't huge wages. And I remember somebody came in and he had a Range Rover and all these properties. And I was only 23, so really impressionable, and he was really good looking. And I was like, wow, you think he's amazing. I was like, how have you got that Range Rover? How have you got all these properties? Me being me. So he was like, oh, well, I've made money buying and selling properties. And I thought, right. I said, well, what you done then? He said, well, I put the money down and I'll rent them out. And I swear to you, I walked back in that estate agent, it's a bit like with the Instagram, and I went, right, where's an up and coming place? And he went to me, Walthamstow. I thought, okay, he knows his stuff. So I went into the office. I know there's no amazing tout here to tell you. I Googled properties in Walthamstow and I put them in price order, the cheapest one that was in Walthamstow, because I thought if that's the cheapest, this was my logic, it can't go down much more. So that should make money, right? This is my logic. And it was 109,000, a one-bedroom flat in Walthamstow, can you imagine now? And I remember there was a mortgage advisor in the place, and this was when you could get, and I always stressed this, deposits, 5% deposits. And she said, you've got to put down, I think it was like 10,000 or whatever it was at the time. And I'd got a pot of, say, 5,000, and I thought, oh, God, I ain't got enough in savings. So I thought, well, hold on a minute. My dad's poor. He might want to do this. So I phoned my dad up, and it was a business arrangement. I always stress this, just because it was my dad, I could have done it with you or anybody. It really annoys me when people say about my dad. I'm like, my dad literally laughs because he's renting now. He's like, remember, you've got a rich dad, Gemma. I was like, I wish I did. I'd be fleecing you every week. And we went there, and I saw this property, and I said, Dad, I found one. It was me that found it. I said, we're going to buy it. I said, right, we need to put in £5,000 each. We kept it for 10 years. But at the same time, a week later, once that had gone through, I found another house in Waltham Cross. And again, did the same thing. I thought, because I didn't like with the flats that you had to pay ground rent, I didn't realise you had that. So when I bought it, I thought, oh, that rent money is only just covering the mortgage. I've got to find £100 a month for ground rent. So that was stressing me out, as you can imagine. I'm a stresshead. So then I went and I bought a house. Again, three bedrooms. And what we did was we used that rent money to put the deposit down on the next house. We did that up, and then basically what I did was I kept both the properties for about 11 years. So I never had I didn't have 1p out of those properties for 11 years. All they did was cover the rent or cover the boiler breaking down, or tenants would knock and then I had to take one to court. And oh God, I'd never want to be a landlord again. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't the dream. I'm not selling it at all. It stressed me out because you have to find the thing. And again, I used to keep it there as a float. So I'd be like, the boiler's going to go, say they knock the rent, we've got to pay the mortgage. So you can't touch any of it.
And also paying off the mortgage is something that, even growing up, I remember that it's always been a talking point, only this amount of time until we pay off our mortgage. It's something that people aim towards because, they last for such a long chunk. It's something that hangs over you for such a large chunk of your life, so to do it at such a young age.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to do it as well because I'd never earned a lot of money. So it always stressed me out that I just wanted to make sure that I could pay this off. I mean, we do want to move. So people always say to me, will you have a mortgage when you move? And I'm like, yes, unless I can whip a load of money out of my bum.
Well,
then
you are the genius mum, so...
Yeah, I am the genius mum. I'll probably pay off... Headline next week will probably be she bought a £3 million house on 10 grand a year and she's paid it off. But there you go. I laugh at things like that. I think being older, you do. You're just like, oh, God, But, yeah, I just think because I was on a low income, I always wanted that pressure off me, and I always thought if I paid that mortgage off, I could have loads of holidays a year because I love holidays, making memories, and that's what I do now. And there's no apologies about that. I've worked, I've done my time, all my 20s, my 30s, I've gone without everything to pay this mortgage off. So now I'm going to have my holidays, and I'm trying to cram them in because we've missed 2 years, haven't we? And then when I move, I probably won't be going on holiday at all, but it'll be back to the drawing board. I'll be like, no, I'm paying it off again. And I overpaid on the mortgage on the house I had with my ex as well. We overpaid all the time on that mortgage, continuously. Every time we had spare cash, we didn't buy things, we paid it off the mortgage. So that's another way I did it as well.
Yeah. It's a really clever way of doing it. Just little bits, just knocks it down a little bit by little bit. You're also asked, so question number 3 is tips for stay-at-home mums and food costs. That's something that's obviously changed a lot over the last few years, food costs, and you see that rising all the time.
Yeah. Tips for stay-at-home mums, I would say a lot of people obviously do this, but don't do things like toy rotation. So if you've got so many toys, and you can buy them from NCT sales, car boot sales. My kids think a toy store is Poundland, and I'm not joking you. Brody didn't know what Smith Toys was until he was about 8. I'd never taken him in there. You can call me a cruel parent, but he'd been on lovely holidays and everything, and that's what I mean. I'd cut back on things like that. And he's got loads and loads of toys, absolutely stacks of them. I've never gone and thought, I'm going to go and spend £60 on a toy. So, I mean, it's value. I always just think value for money. I'd rather put that towards taking him to see somewhere in the world. And all these things, people I know can spend hundreds a month on toys. So with toys, it's a really good way of cutting back, because at the end of the day, they don't know if it's secondhand, like puzzles from the charity shops, taking them back to the charity, buying more. selling them on Facebook market pages. Also a really good tip for stay-at-home mums is if you've got like a newborn coming, right on the things like that Facebook market page, looking for a Moses basket, looking for this, looking for that, people will either come to you and say, oh yeah, I've got one for sale for 10, 20, 30, 40 quid, whatever it is. Sometimes as well, people just want to get rid of things, so they let you pick them up for free. So I said this to my friend, she got a cot, a wardrobe and a Moses basket for nothing because the woman wanted to get rid of it. She was like, no, I'd rather help you. And when she got there, she gave her loads of clothes and everything, like set her up. So it's a really good idea. So literally put that out there to the universe and ask. And with things like baby groups, if you've not got the money, look for church groups. Go round to those sort of things because they're pay as you go, and they're just a lot of the time they're a donation, £1, you can have a cup of tea. So I did a lot of them rather than the paying up £150 up front. I did a lot of that. And do things like if you've got like an NCT group or a mum group, have it that you rotate it. Say there's 6 of you, have like Monday at, say, G's house, next Monday at Gemma's house, and we all go, and then it's your week to host, you buy the cake and the coffee. Then once every 6 weeks, you've got to pay out for the coffee and cake, but then you've got an activity to do every week rather than going into like Starbucks or Costa. Yeah. Because when you're on maternity leave, that's when you're really skiing, and all those coffees add up. Also, look at doing things like online surveys. I've got a reel on my Instagram where there's lots of those where you can just earn a bit of extra cash. No, it's not loads. It's not going to change your life, but it could be 10, 20, 30 pound in Amazon vouchers, which pays for like nappies and things like that. Yeah. Join parenting groups like Boots, Pampers, all those things, because you get lots of free vouchers and free samples. So look for those. Making money, sell lots of things online. And if you're a stay-at-home mum, for example, you might have a friend that works in the city and they might have lots of things to sell, but they've not got the time. So you could do it that they come round and you say, well, look, I'll sell all your stuff for you and I'll take 30, 40, 50, 20% of the profit. And then you've basically got a business. You've got no outlay because you can sell on Vinted, eBay, Facebook for them. You've got no outlay stock because they're giving you the stock. It's a business. You can start like that overnight and you can earn money. And mystery shopper as well. And maybe possibly look at, if you do want to, as you're a mum and you've got some extra time, maybe look at like, especially like at Christmas and things like that, maybe little driving jobs, like Herms and things, because delivery driving, online shopping's gone mad, or weekend work if you want, as I say, that's if you want to, and it's hard because you're not with the kids and you've got someone to look after the child. So I always say if you're getting sort of £10 an hour and nursery's £12 an hour, it's counteracting itself, isn't it? Yeah. So look at all things like that, and try and keep within those budgets. Food costs, so scanners is a really good one. When you go in the supermarket, grab a scanner. If you can see the amount going up, you're less likely to put things in your basket. As you're scanning going around, you've got like £10, £12, £14, £15. You think, Christ, I've put that bar in, I don't really need it. Really doing that. I'm just going to give you some bullet points because I've got so many. Price per gram or per kilo. Don't shop down the end aisles. Go to the end and go to the bottom. They put the cheaper ones at the bottom to keep it out of eyesight for you. So make sure you're looking at that. Look at things like trying to bulk out your dinners. So like if you're doing a bolognese, use half carrots, half mince. Don't put everything in as mince because it's the meats that are expensive. Maybe try and add pulses and things like that. Because these are, all the meats have really, really, really gone up. And obviously freezer is your best thing. So if you're not sure whether to freeze something, simply go on Google. You can freeze so much stuff. Go to IKEA, get them sandwich bags, cook a dinner, freeze half of it, write it on, pop it in the freezer. I waste nothing in this house. It's like ready, steady, cook. There could be 1 carrot, 1 onion, a bit of tomato puree and some spaghetti. I'm like, right, we got a dinner, kids. Let's go. And use the food blender to blend things up. If you've got fussy eaters like Bronte, she's a nightmare. So like I blend up the courgettes and the mushrooms and the carrots, make it into a big pattern and do it in a shepherd's pie. But there might only be that much meat in it. The rest of it's veg. But with all the sauce and the gravy, they don't notice it. We can taste it as adults, but they don't. So that's another good thing. Also, pick up those free magazines when you're in the supermarket as well, because a lot of the time they've got coupons in the back of them, and you can, get those. And obviously all the loyalty vouchers, I think most people know about that now, but there's still people out there that don't have Nectar cards, Tesco Club cards. You've got to get them. They're free, they're simple. And like Tesco Club cards, if you've got a big family, I'm pretty sure this offer is still on, but look at the Tesco Club card Plus. I think it's like $7.99 a month. You get where I'm going with it. Like, looking at taking things or changing a meat that you're using, a chicken thigh is cheaper than chicken wings, and switching up what you're using as well. And planning is so important. I mean, I'm scatty, I'm not the best planner, but I do always write my meals down when I go shopping, and I always have done.
Yeah. So we have asked the Happy Mad Baby community to send in some of their questions. So number one is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that parents make when it comes to managing their finances?
Oh, I would say probably the biggest mistake is the minute you get pregnant is one of the biggest mistakes. You know, like
Just getting pregnant. All right,
I didn't mean it like that. That sounds so. Having a child in the first place is the worst thing you could do. Maybe we should edit that. That's no, keep it in. It's quite funny.
Keep it
Don't
in.
have them. Solved. Don't have them.
Everything solved.
Everything solved. Your body will remain the same. You'll have money for the rest of your life. Happiness, sleep.
Oh, sleep.
Anything else that you need to know? I might be a parenting coach after this. I think I've got some
you should.
good... Stop. Don't have any more. No, jokes aside, is when you get pregnant, what I was going to say is if you're still both working, is start putting the money away then. Try and start living off maternity leave the minute you get pregnant. So I know it sounds really crazy. So like month one, I'm just going to go January. Not that we can get pregnant in January, but it's easy for me
Christmas
to
was
think of
fun.
the year.
Maybe you did.
Yeah, Christmas was fun. Now you're pregnant. When the minute I found out I was pregnant with Brody, for example, my first, he's 10 now, I worked for a bank, and I basically told myself right now, it wasn't, I don't know what it was at the time, $650 a month or something I was getting for maternity, whatever it is. And I said, right, say I'm earning 1,500, I'm going to act like I'm earning 1,000, so I'm still better off. And then I started just putting that 500, and I said to Adam, let's act like I'm not earning that, so that when I was off for that 3 months where there was no pay, I had that buffer.
Yeah.
So that's a really good one to look at and start doing. Again, then it's about making changes. Like if you're a parent for the first time, things are going to change and you are going to have less money, but jokes aside, like it's going to be the most amazing thing ever, like you're a little baby, and it's a short period of time you've got to get through. I always say that to people, like they'll be at school, like Bronte starts school this year, so it's trying to manage those first couple of years, and they're the hardest, they're the toughest. They're the ones that you do need to save up for. So it's trying to, if you can, save whilst you're still in work, just to buffer those first few years. And if you are having a couple of years off work, maybe looking at things like not having sort of holidays for the first couple of years, because I know that, again, it's not great, but maybe changing the way that you're doing it. Or if there is another mum and you can both work part-time, if she's working, say, like a Monday and a Wednesday, could she have your kids for you on the Monday and Wednesday, and then you have hers on the Thursday and the Friday? If there's two of you that can double up, it's great. And look at things like trying to do little work with your children. Is there anything you can do? Like my mum used to do ironing, for example, when us kids were little, or she used to clean people's houses, and they allowed my sister, I was older then, my sister to go with my mum. And it's just about everything is going to change your lifestyle. But I think as well, like, when you have that baby beforehand, obviously you're buying everything for you, and you probably know this yourself, like you never really buy yourself clothes once you have kids. You don't really go out like you used to before you had kids. So try not to worry as much as it is, because it is going to be more parks, walks, getting things for them. And don't overbuy for your child, like clothes. Like when they first arrive, like when you get all those newborn clothes, if you've got 30 newborn outfits, you don't need 30. Go back to the shop and change them for 6 to 9 months, 9 to 12 months. I did that after my baby shower, and I had clothes up for the first 18 months that were bought for Brody, because I changed them for bigger sizes, because I thought I don't need more than 10 of these. He's only going to wear them once. So I would do it that I had that many clothes, and look at doing things like that. And again, making sure you're looking at government websites, because when you have a child, you could be entitled to working tax credits. You could be entitled to the family. It's not family allowance, is it anymore? I always call it that, because that's what Mum used to call it. But yeah, go on that and look at what you're entitled to, because when you have a child, there's a lot of things and extra help you can get. There's like milk vouchers if you're on a really low income. There's lots of different things you can do, and obviously all the other sort of tips I've given you about the boots and the other things all tie hand in hand with that as well.
Yeah, amazing. Another person has asked, how can parents get started with saving money even if they're on a tight budget?
Saving money is, I think, if you've got anything left over at the end of the month, which a lot of people don't have obviously, but if you do, it's a mindset. People think, oh, it's only a fiver, there's no point in putting it away. But that fiver goes to a tenner, to 30, to 40, to 50. So I would say start small, just start. Because the minute you start, it can become a bit of a bug, like going to the gym or going on a diet, whatever it is you're into. Like, I'm not into dieting or gymming, but, you know, I sort of relate it to that.
Yeah.
So make sure you put a start. Small amounts add up to big amounts, especially interest rates are good at the moment. So if you can sort of save, look for, you know, go and do your research. Do you want it long term? Do you want it short term? Is it something you want to pull out? Savings is very much an individual need. People say, where should I save? But it's like, okay, well, do you want the money when you're 60? Do you want the money in a year? Do you want this over a 10 year?
Yeah.
So it's looking at the investment you want. Are you a high risk saver? Are you a low risk saver? So it's all that amalgamating. But the best thing to do is to start. And if you're unsure at first, I would just do an instant access, good interest rate, just to get you started, putting it in there. And if you think that you are rubbish with the money, the best day to save is the day you get paid, not at the end of the month, the day you get paid. So you say you get paid £2,000 a month and your bills come out and they're £1,500 a month and you've got £500 to live off at the end of the month and you want to save £100, you save it on the first and call it whatever you want. I used to call it dead money. And then you know you've got £100 a week. Then the day before you get paid, go into your account. If you've got 66p left in there, transfer that with the 100 as well. So do it at the start of the month and at the end of the month. If you don't do it at the start, you won't probably save.
Yeah.
You have to do it the day you get paid. Because once it comes out, you don't counteract it to your money, and then literally forget about it. And if someone's if someone says to you, know, about going out, be like, even if you had that money, if you do really want to save, be like, no, I've only got this left for the month, because that is your save. Look at your saving money like your bill money. Is the best way to say it. If you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So someone has said, growing up, our family never discussed money, but I wish we did. How can I talk to my children about money and teach them good financial habits from a young age? How young do you think we should be talking about money?
I think in a relative way, from straight away, like when my daughter's 4, just turned 4, and I will say to her quite blatantly in the shop, no, it's expensive. You're not having that. You've already had that today. And it might not be expensive, but it's about training them. And I think it's not about forcing it down their throats, but I also think it's fine to say no.
Yeah.
Like absolutely fine, because you're actually probably going to raise a better child. And because you can't go to your boss at the end of the month and be like, oh, I've spent all my money at the cinema, can I have £100? I can't just walk into your house now and be like, can you give me £100? You'd be like, well, why, Gemma, wouldn't you? You'd ask me why. If I said to you, oh, I want to go to Starbucks, you'd be like, no. If I said to you, I need to feed my family, then you'd be like, right, come on, we'll get in the car and I'll take you to the food shop. It's different. So I think we should be talking about it in a roundabout way from a young age. But again, there's no right or wrong with how you do it or when you do it. It's what feels right to you. But I sort of, Brody now's 10 and he'll say to me, oh, that's a lot of money, that is, if it's £50 or whatever, because I've kind of just naturally instilled that into him. So I've spoken about it in a roundabout way. Like I use this one with the ice creams. I've said this a few times, but it really resonated with me. Brody asked me for an ice cream the first day of the school holidays. It was £2. Fine, have an ice cream. Yeah, over the park. No ice cream. Yeah. Next day, when I went over, can I have an ice cream? I said no. He went, why? I said, because they cost money. Now, of course, I can afford £2, right? That wasn't the point. I just think, no, you're not having something every single day. Like it's a treat. So he went, oh, £2 not a lot of money. That's what he said to me. So I said, how much is a lot of money then, Brody? And he was about 7 at the time. He went, £10. That's what he felt was a lot of money. I went, okay, if I buy you an ice cream every day this week, that's £10. Then he went, oh, that is a lot of money, Mum. And I went, yeah, exactly. I said, so you can have one today and one at the end of the week. So I was letting him have like 2 weeks. I thought, I don't want you eating ice cream every single solitary day. And he was like, oh, okay. And that was just a little example of, to us, we might think, if you said to me, what's a lot of money? I might say like £10,000 when you're an adult. But he thought £10, and I still think a tenner is a lot of money, a tenner's a tenner. But it's about educating your kids. So even if they are really little and they're going in Poundland, and Bronte always says to me, can I have this and can I have this? I say, no. I said, one toy, Bronte. Mm-hmm. And it's not about whether I can afford it or not, whether I'm being a mean mum. I want her to understand she can't have everything. So I think that's a good way to do it with them.
What I've found really fascinating lately is, so it's that thing, isn't it? You go to a museum, you go to a zoo, whatever you go to, that you finish in the gift shop. And there's always a thing. The kids always want something. And what I found fascinating is that we had that when we were on holiday. We went to Edinburgh for a little weekend trip. And, they kept going on about it, kept going on about it, kept going on about it. And they got it that they could have one thing. But interestingly, then they both had birthday monies. A birthday money, and we took them out on a separate trip, and they had the money, physical money, that was theirs. And they understood that if they wanted to get something, they would have to hand over their physical money to get it. And that really shifted things in their brain. And I wonder how much with kids it's important so that they actually see what they're doing. You've earned, like, okay, that was your birthday, or maybe you've helped us with the chicken, so you got £1 for collecting eggs or whatever, but now you have to give away what you've earned to get something that you like. And it really has shifted their outlook on it. Well, for now, I'm sure they'll for now, it's that's parenting,
of course,
isn't it?
It's lovely when you're spending other people's money. Like I said to you earlier, if I'd had a loaded dad, or I come round to you and you went, here's £1,000, I feel, thank you so much. I'd enjoy spending that in Prada, love, thank you. When it's your money, it is so true. Like, you're so much more careful with it. And that is what we need to be with our kids. Like, I have I'm going to sound the worst mum ever now. I've never bought them anything in the museums or anything since when they've gone through it. Not once. Not once have I caved. I'm like, no, we've been for the day out. We're going to go and have our jam sandwiches in the park. Come on.
I've definitely barked behind them. Don't even look. Keep on walking. Keep on walking.
I'm like, no, you're not having that, because it's £85 for a floating wand, like when you go to Harry Potter. It's a piece of wood. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go and get you a stick from the garden and I'll engrave it from Harry himself and send you it. I went into B&M and got him a floating pen for £10 instead for Christmas. And he's just as happy with it. He's like, oh, but why? I'm like, and I actually said to him, because it's like £55 for a bit of plastic, just because it says Harry. It's not magic. It's not going to turn you into, it's not going to, if it was, I'd be buying it and zapping myself bigger boobs, zapping myself a better this, zapping me. Do you know what I mean? Like, making myself taller. It's not going to work. For 55 quid, if it did that, I'll be buying the shop.
Someone has asked, how do I save money when I don't have time to shop around for the best deals?
I've got an answer for that.
Have you? What is it?
Right. Download onto your computer Honey.
Yeah.
Or I always say this wrong. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. Coupert. It's one of the two, and Honey. Basically, it's an extension browser. So what it does is when you go online, say you're shopping on a clothing store, when you go to the basket to check out, once Honey is installed into your browser, it searches the entire internet for any discount code that anyone had put on today. So you could have put on a code, Martin Lewis could have put on a code, and it finds it, and then it just automatically adds it to your basket.
That's amazing.
And then you check out.
That's incredible.
There you go. And also what you've got is if you've got, like, for example, a credit card. Like, I've got a credit card. I buy a thing on my credit card because I pay it off each month to get the points. Of course I do. But I shop through Shops Away. So I then build air miles when I shop through Shops Away. So I get like 2 air miles just by clicking their cookies. So I shop on Shops Away. I go through to the thing. I then use Honey, which finds me the biggest discount code. So then I get extra air miles and I get my discount.
And it takes no extra time because it's all there. I'm a new mum and need advice on the cost of childcare versus going back to work. How can I afford it or work out whether it will work or not?
Okay, so you need to go on to Entitled To, again, like I've said before, or the childcare website. There's 3 parts of childcare. So if you're doing year 6, you've got to do 60. If you're on universal credits, you will get the 30 hours, but you won't get the tax-free childcare allowance. If you're running up to £100,000 a year, you'll get the 30 hours, and you can also, on top of that, get the tax-free childcare allowance. But again, that's going on the website, and each person, because there's some exemptions like with disabilities, carers and things like that. So you need to look at each of the criterias individual to you, but it's really important that you do check it out because there's 3 different types, and then weigh it up. So you need to obviously find out what you're earning an hour, what the nursery cost is costing, but it's really, really simple to get the funding. Obviously, it's going to be coming in from 9 months soon. So if you're looking at the 30 hours, you need to register it online, and then you'll get a code, and you have to submit that code to your nursery. along with your national insurance number and your child's name. So you need to find a nursery that is accepting the 30 hours. Most do, and loads of private schools do as well. So if you have got a child, this is another tip to save a bit of money. Sounds mad, but if you've got a child in school and you always have the summer holidays off, normal nurseries obviously run throughout the year, so you pay throughout the year. Private schools have the summer off. So I found that Bronte going to a private school nursery was about £400 a month cheaper than going to the nursery down the road, because I didn't need her in school terms. So look at doing that as well. But not all private schools take it, but again, a lot do, some don't. So it's looking around, but you need to do your own research on it. But yeah, go on literally the government website, childcare tax, 30 hours and the universal credits. There's also websites called Entitled To. So there's 3 different things for the childcare that you can get. And as I say, the dates are all coming out, and they are expected to start rolling in as soon as October, then March. And I think it's by the end of next September, they're going to be completely rolled out. But as I say, with governments and legislation, who knows? I don't know. Until it's written in stone, I'm not part of the government, but yeah.
You're not?
No.
Oh, gosh.
Don't think I'm bright enough for that.
You're plenty bright enough. Don't you worry about that. So we end each podcast with you completing 3 sentences. The first one is, being a parent means.
Everything and more. Best thing I've ever done in the world. I literally cannot sometimes breathe when I see them. Sometimes they drive me mad, but it's absolutely worth every single solitary blood, sweat and tear. Definitely.
Next one. If I could tell you one thing, it would be.
Don't worry about what other people think. They're totally irrelevant. Probably.
I like that. And you can apply that to absolutely everything.
Absolutely everything, yeah.
And finally, I'm happy when
I'm outside and I'm with people, friends, my children, family, people, and having a cup of coffee. I love a coffee and a walk.
Amazing. Gemma, thank you so much. Honestly, you're so full of wisdom in this area. And, there's a reason why so many people turn to you. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me on. I'm honoured.
Thank you. And I love your headphones.